Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Patek Philippe, or Patek Philippe, or Patek Philippe, or as I refer to, Patek. Arguably the king of all watchmaking, arguably the Rolls Royce of all watchmaking. I tend to discount Patek a little bit because I'm somewhat biased towards other brands, but nevertheless it's very hard to argue the fact that Patek is indeed the king of all brands, and simply because of just a few achievements. So if you go back in history of what Patek has done over the last almost 200 years now, 1839. So what does that be? Yeah, it's going to be 180 years, exactly, actually. So what did I bring with me? I brought an oldie but a goodie, a watch that would most say is nothing special, as myself included, which is the Patek Philippe Ellipse model, or the Golden Ellipse model. I brought the coveted 57 chronograph in rose gold, and I bought something that's new and exciting and very, very shiny, and that is a 5980 rose gold chronograph, completely done with factory diamonds and baguettes, and we'll get to that one last. That's sort of that wow factor Patek. Wow! You know me, I love history, and not just watch history, I love all history, but specifically, obviously, I do love watch history. So I would like to run through some of the achievements first that Patek has achieved in the last almost 200 years. I guess the best thing to do is to start with patents and inventions that Patek Philippe has started with. 1845, patent the keyless winding and hand setting system. 1868, it created the first Swiss wristwatch. I believe it was done for some countess from Hungary. I don't remember her name, so don't quote me on that. 1881, patented its precision regulator. 1889, patented its perpetual calendar movement for pocket watches. Following, in 1902, they patented their double chronograph, which was a big deal if you ask me. In 1916, they made the very first complicated ladies' watch. It was a 5-minute repeater. In 1923, and this is probably my favorite, I take it back, they made the first split-second chronograph wristwatch. That's a big deal. Those are the watches that fetch ridiculous amounts of money at auction. Of course, that didn't stop. In 1925, they made the first perpetual calendar wristwatch. Obviously worth mentioning 1933, where they made the world's most complicated watch, known as the Henry Grave supercomplication. This was the most complicated watch until 1989, by the way, in which they made another watch, making it the most complicated watch, and that was the Caliber 89. And of course, in 1962, they created a tourbillon movement, which achieved world's timekeeping precision record for mechanical watches at the Geneva Observatory. I'm going to stop here because there was more from Patek. You guys can read about this on Patek Philippe's website. They have a beautiful history line to show you all the stuff with images. But the reason I stopped in 1962, because shortly after 1962, in 1968, is when this model was born. And this is the Patek Philippe Golden Ellipse. Oftentimes, companies and products are made famous by famous people at various times. And today, when you think of product placements on various celebrities, you can have a celebrity on Instagram sell you a line of makeup or a skinny tea or anything for that matter. Oftentimes, it's the other way around, where a celebrity can make a product famous. But I think in the case of Patek Philippe, it was the famous celebrities or the famous people of the world that chose to wear Patek Philippe for obvious reasons. A good example in today's world would be Kim Kardashian. Her products are flying off the shelves, whether it's makeup, clothing, or any other accessories for ladies. They absolutely eat them up. Well, I think this is a little bit in reverse. So I'm going to drop a few names that I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with that were Patek Philippe going back 200 years. A good start would be the Beatles. Most of the Beatles were Patek Philippe. You had Eric Clapton, you had Clark Gable, Pablo Picasso, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Wagner, Andy Warhol, just some of the famous artists that wore Patek Philippe. Entrepreneurs like Walt Disney and JP Morgan wore Patek Philippe. Then, of course, you had the super smarts, like Albert Einstein was a Patek Philippe owner. Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace, he wore Patek Philippe. Along with Nobel Prize winner Rudy Kipling, right? I'm sure you read his books, right? One of the Dalai Lamas wore Patek Philippe, that I know for a fact. Politicians, Vladimir Putin owned a Patek Philippe. 2 popes wore Patek Philippe. John F. Kennedy, can't forget him. General Patton of the United States Army, near and dear to my heart, he wore a Patek Philippe. George Bush, Lyndon B. Johnson, Nelson Mandela wore a Patek Philippe. And then, of course, there was royalty. A lot of these watches were made for royalty, and a lot of royalty wore this. Numerous dukes, Prince Charles wore a Patek Philippe. Queen Victoria wore a Patek Philippe. Russian Tsar, I think it was Nicholas II, he owned a Patek Philippe. I believe it was a pocket watch. So Patek Philippe has a pretty darn impressive list of clientele. If this was in today's day and age and all this was all over social media, that would be so much more in your face. Today, you have to go back to the history book, go back to the internet to actually find some of that information. And I'm certain that I only mentioned such a tiny bit of celebrities or famous people, I should say, that wore Patek Philippe. But anyway, back to the ellipse. And I want to start this not with my own words, but with the words of Patek Philippe right off of their website. They call the Golden Ellipse collection the perfect harmony. It's an elliptical case between a circle and a rectangle. First appeared in 1968, Patek Philippe's Golden Ellipse was a bold departure from traditional watch shapes, but far from bowing down to fashion. This innovative watch has a sense of inner harmony that was very pleasing to the eye. Its design was inspired by the principles of the golden section discovered by ancient Greek mathematicians. This divine proportion, expressed as a ratio of 1/1.618, forms the basis of some of history's greatest works of art and architecture. So, to translate that into my own words, it was neither here or there. By neither here or there, it wasn't a rectangle, it wasn't a round watch, it wasn't an oval watch, it was neither here or there. And guess what? This watch is still neither here or there. And let me just show you, this is an older example. This is circa 1980s. I actually received this watch in new old stock condition, which is pretty rare for this watch. And it's also on its mesh bracelet. Original ellipses came out with this blue dial that you see here. Here's your original mesh bracelet, and by mesh, why do they call it a mesh bracelet? Well, that's pretty obvious. The bracelet is like a mesh. It can fold every which way, and oddly enough, it doesn't really scratch when you do that either, because I know you guys are going to give me heat over that. Folding buckle, which is integrated into the bracelet, as you see here. Very thin case. The older ellipses were small. The current ellipses are much larger than this one, but again, this is probably the least popular men's Patek out there today. I can't think of one that's less popular than this because again, the watch is neither here or there. It's very, very, very conservative. For someone that wants to own a Patek Philippe and for it not to be flashy, even though this isn't a gold bracelet, this is not a flashy watch whatsoever, if you ask me. It just looks like an old gold watch that someone is wearing. But unmistakably, those that know Patek Philippe will know that this is a Patek Ellipse, and guess what? These things are deals. You can pick up a Patek Ellipse way under $10,000 on a strap. One in this condition on a bracelet would fetch upwards of $10,000, anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000. And again, it's just for someone that doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money but yet own a Patek Philippe. This is the perfect watch for them. I don't recommend buying current models of ellipses because the retails are quite up there and they don't really hold their value well at all, historically shown. Speaking of history, moving on to the Patek 5070 chronograph in rose gold. This was a trio that was done in a rose gold, which you see here. It was also done in the yellow gold with a black dial and a platinum version with the blue dial and the blue strap, as they normally did back then. So what's so special about the Patek 5070 chronograph? Well, if you take the watch apart, there's really nothing special to it. It's not even their own movement. But it's still one of the most collectible chronographs from Patek Philippe. The 57, anybody that owns a Patek Philippe 5070 trio has done extremely well over time in terms of value, in terms of collectability. This is a very coveted watch, whether it's in rose gold, yellow gold, or in platinum. I remember right before the financial crisis of '08, people were going crazy over these Pateks. I remember selling the platinum upwards of $150,000. The rose gold was selling in upwards of $75,000 to $85,000, and the yellow gold wasn't too far behind. If you look at all auction results, if you look at Patek Philippe history, you'll notice that chronographs fetch beaucoup dollars at auction. So why is this one so collectible? Again, considering this is not even its own movement. The movement of this watch is a Lemania movement, which is also known as the caliber 2310. And oddly enough, what makes that movement famous is the Omega Speedmaster. And this is why it's better known under Omega's caliber 321. And it was used in the very, very first Omega Speedmaster from 1957. Now, Patek Philippe didn't just take that movement and slap it into this watch. They put on their decorations onto the movement. If you compare this to the original Lemania movement, it looks nothing like it because Patek decorated it in a way Patek decorated all their movements and watches. Nevertheless, this is a beautiful movement, and this is an iconic movement. A lot of watch collectors will set this as sort of a part of those 10 iconic chronograph movements, the Lemania 2310. So, it's not their own movement. Maybe that's what made this watch much more collectible, because after the fact, they discontinued using these movements. And guess what? The 5170, which was the younger brother of the 5070, when they first came out of the gate, weren't really doing that good, and it's still not doing that good. You can find 5170s, especially in the secondary market, discounted and discountedly heavy. Nobody wants to collect them. People still want these. And what does it trade at today? I think we're selling this watch for $65,000 US. This has the archive papers, not the original papers. If it had the original papers, I'd probably sell upwards of $70,000. And the market has been steady on them. It hasn't gone down. And considering its original retail price was under $40,000, it's not so bad for a chronograph from Patek Philippe that doesn't even have their own movement. Moving on to the coveted 5980 Nautilus. What's going on with the Nautiluses today? Stainless steel models are selling at $100,000. Rose gold models are selling at $150,000. The market has gone completely ape on 5980 Nautiluses. I'm not even going to talk about the 5711, the plain Jane Nautiluses, but the Nautilus chronograph has gone through the roof once again. I've seen this happen before. Last time around, prior to the 2008 crisis, these things went all the way up to $65,000, which is more than twice its retail value. And today, the same fate. Stainless steels are trading at about that, and rose golds are trading at that, and they're flying off the shelves still. I have no idea who's buying them at those prices, but nevertheless, the prices have climbed steadily. But I brought something that's a little bit different, something that you guys are not going to see on any dealer shelves unless it's an aftermarket job. This is the original 5980 rose gold with a diamond bracelet with baguettes and a baguette bezel, and this watch is absolutely stunning. Again, oftentimes when I come across pieces like this, and people always tell me, hey, Rowan, why don't you come down to earth and stop showing us $1 million watches we can't afford? Show us something that's actually somewhat reasonable. Well, guess what? Any 5980 at this point, whether it's steel, rose, or diamond baguette, it is becoming unaffordable because of the way the crazy market is today. But anytime I come across a watch, which you may see 5 in a lifetime, I always want to share it with my audience, and this is why I wanted to show you this. I do love diamond watches, and all this is a regular 5980 in rose gold with a baguette bezel, baguette diamonds going down the middle links of the bracelet, and the rest of the links are paved in regular diamonds. What is the retail price of this watch? The answer is I don't know. It's somewhere in that 600,000, 550 Swiss franc range, and I don't know 100% because this watch is not even on a price list. What does this watch trade at? It trades at about $650,000. That's how crazy the market on something like this is, and rightfully so, because guess what? There's only a handful of these out there. This isn't something you can pick up the phone and call a local dealer, or Patek for that matter, say, hey, I want to buy that baguette 5980 in platinum. They'll say best of luck to you and good luck finding one. There's nothing for me to say in regards to the 5980 chronographs that I already haven't said, so the only thing I'm really doing here is I'm showing you the beauty of this watch. And the bracelet does have plastic on it, so you can't really see that well. It'd be pretty tough for me to unwrap it, but I did unwrap the head of the watch so you can see the gorgeous diamond work and the overall aesthetics of this watch. And if you ask me, would I wear this watch? Yes. Can I afford to own one of these? Yeah, I don't think I'm quite in the position to own this watch personally, so I won't. Fortunately, can't wear this guy because it's brand new, but nevertheless, absolutely stunning. Home run Patek Philippe. This is probably the most stunning diamond Patek Philippe watch I've ever laid eyes on, hands down. Can't think of any other one that I would pick over this guy that has baguette diamonds or just any other diamonds from Patek Philippe. So I've sort of gone probably from the least desirable to a very collectible to a Patek that's sort of out of this world. And I think, I can spend 10 episodes talking about Patek Philippe and its various pieces that they've made, but oddly enough, I took a very different bunch of watches to bring you some thoughts on Patek Philippe as to why it is the king of all watchmaking, and sort of to give you some insight on some of the watches that are out there today, both very affordable and accessible, some not so affordable, not so accessible, and of course one that's next to impossible to find. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane with Patek Philippe, and I say that as if I lived back in the 1800s. Of course I didn't, but for me it is a trip down memory lane because I have sold this watch, both this watch and this watch, in the beginning stages of my career, and I've seen these watches go up and down and the prices change on them. And this is the first time that I actually have this particular piece in stock, and I know that most of you guys are going to say, well, that's not something I'm ever going to be able to afford, but as a watch connoisseur, which I hope most of you guys are, it's nice for me to have the ability to show you certain things that some you may not even existed, or some that you may never get your hands on, because you know what? I'm like a kid in the candy store just the same, just because I'm in this business. Every time I get a piece such as this, which most likely I won't have another in stock for a long time or ever, I also get just as excited, and I get excited not as a watch dealer, but I get excited as a watch connoisseur and a watch lover myself. In any case, that's it for me for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you're watching this and you did not subscribe, because every subscriber counts. And speaking of which, I hit over 5,000 subscribers, so I want to send a special thank you to all of you guys that have subscribed to my channel. It means a lot. It's very difficult to get subscribers on YouTube. I mean, unless you pay for it. Of course, that's not something that I do or ever will do. I like growing my channel organically, which means that subscribers that are subscribing to my channel are actually interested in listening to what I have to say or what I have to show. It means, again, a lot to me. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so you'll know when my next videos will come out. And I'll see you guys next week for more watch reviews and other videos.